The story begins far from Klieg lights and studio gates. Northern air, measured voices, a country shaped by restraint. May Britt was born on the 22nd of March, 1934, in Lidingö, Sweden, into a culture that prized modesty over spectacle. Sweden in the 1930s was orderly, composed, and deeply structured by social expectation. It was not a place that encouraged theatrical ambition, especially for young women. Creativity was respected, but fame was not pursued. Expression was subtle, private, and disciplined. From an early age, May Britt stood out, not because she demanded attention, but because she did not. Her presence was calm, observant, and self-contained. Teachers noticed her ability to listen. Family members noticed her poise. Even as a child, she seemed to understand that silence could carry weight. Her interest in acting grew slowly. It was not born from fantasies of stardom, but from curiosity about people, about emotion, about how stories could be told without excess. She trained formally, studying performance with seriousness and restraint. Swedish theater at the time emphasized realism, control, and inner life rather than grand gestures. This environment shaped her instincts profoundly. Early roles in Swedish cinema reflected this discipline. She was rarely cast as flamboyant or overtly dramatic. Instead, she was given parts that required stillness, characters whose emotions simmered beneath the surface. Directors trusted her with subtlety. Audiences sensed authenticity. Post-war Europe was changing. Cinema was evolving. Italian neorealism, French experimentation, and Scandinavian minimalism were attracting international attention. Hollywood, always searching for the next face, began turning toward Europe. The American studio system wanted actresses who looked different, sounded different, felt different. May Britt fit that search, but she did not bend to it. When the opportunity to work internationally arose, she approached it cautiously. She understood the risks of being reduced to an image. She understood how quickly admiration could turn into expectation. Still, she accepted the challenge. Not to be transformed, but to remain precise under new pressure. This balance between opportunity and integrity would define her life. Hollywood in the 1950s was a machine. Contracts were strict. Images were curated. Careers were engineered. When May Britt arrived in the United States, she entered a system that valued beauty but controlled autonomy. Foreign actresses were often marketed as exotic, shaped into symbols rather than artists. Many adapted by surrendering their individuality. May Britt did not. Her look, platinum blonde hair, sharp features, cool composure, made her immediately visible. But what set her apart was not appearance. It was discipline. She did not overperform. She did not chase attention. She let scenes settle. Her defining international role came in 1959 with The Blue Angel, a modern reinterpretation of the classic film that had once made Marlene Dietrich a legend. The expectations were heavy. Comparisons were unavoidable. Many assumed the project was doomed by its own history. May Britt approached the role without imitation. She did not attempt to echo Dietrich's sensuality or persona. Instead, she offered something colder, more modern, a woman aware of her power, but emotionally guarded. This choice divided opinion, but it was unmistakably her own. Critics noted her restraint. Audiences noticed her presence. The film established her as an international actress capable of carrying complex material. Hollywood responded with more opportunities. She worked steadily, navigating both American and European productions, moving between cultures with composure. Yet the industry struggled to categorize her. She was not playful enough for light comedy, not expressive enough for melodrama, not submissive enough for the studio image. In an era that rewarded predictability, May Britt remained controlled. Off-screen, she avoided excessive publicity. She was private, thoughtful, and uninterested in spectacle. She focused on craft rather than celebrity. This earned her respect, but it also limited her protection when her personal life entered public view. The machine that had welcomed her was about to test her resolve. In the early 1960s, May Britt made a personal choice that would define her legacy far beyond cinema. She married entertainer Sammy Davis Jr. This was not simply a private decision. It occurred in a country where interracial marriage was still illegal in many states, where public opinion was openly hostile, and where Hollywood studios feared controversy more than injustice. The reaction was swift and severe. Roles vanished. Invitations stopped. Studios distanced themselves. The press scrutinized her relentlessly. What had once been praised, her independence, her restraint, was now framed as defiance. May Britt did not respond with outrage. She did not stage defenses. She did not retreat into apology. She stayed, in choosing love and family over career preservation. She paid a heavy professional price. Her visibility in mainstream cinema declined sharply. The industry moved on quickly, as it often does. But history did not. As time passed, the significance of her choice became clearer. She had crossed a line that society was not yet ready to erase. The resistance she faced exposed the very prejudices the era preferred to ignore. She focused on family life, becoming a mother and prioritizing stability over exposure. For someone whose public image had always been controlled, this withdrawal was not an escape. It was an assertion of values. Decades later, as laws changed and attitudes shifted, her story began to be re-examined. What once ended a career came to be recognized as an act of quiet courage. She had not sought to be a symbol. She became one anyway. Time reframes everything. As Hollywood evolved, May Britt remained largely outside the spotlight. She did not pursue a comeback. She did not rewrite her narrative for approval. Instead, she allowed her work and her choices to speak for themselves. Film historians began revisiting her performances, noting how well they aged. Her restraint felt modern. Her presence felt intentional. In an industry often defined by excess, her minimalism endured. More importantly, cultural historians revisited her life. They recognized that her influence was not measured in box office totals or awards, but in boundaries crossed too early for comfort. She had lived through the consequences of being ahead of her time and survived with dignity intact. Today, her name appears in discussions of cinema, civil rights, and cultural change, not loudly. Clearly, she represents a kind of strength that does not announce itself, a strength that holds, a strength that waits, a strength that endures. And when people speak of May Britt now, they do so with perspective. They see a young woman from Sweden who entered a foreign industry without surrendering herself. They see an actress who chose precision over performance. They see a person who accepted consequence rather than compromise. And as the years move forward, her story remains steady, instructive, and quietly powerful. If one day this chapter of her life reaches its natural close, history will already know how to speak of her, not with spectacle, not with noise, but with respect. Because May Britt showed the world something enduring, that grace can be defiance, that silence can be strength, that integrity can outlast applause. Some lives are remembered for what they achieved. Others are remembered for what they stood for. May Britt belongs to the second kind. Her story does not demand attention. It invites reflection. And long after the noise of the era fades, her choices remained clear, courageous, and quietly ahead of their time.